With the Sowetan.
One I was just looking at now, and their lead story about Katsavela saying racist muhu hit hard. Major clients cut ties with businesses linked to the K-word man, and Sun School bans Adam Katsavelos after video went viral, and the school telling him not to set foot on their premises. And also businesses who were associated or did business with the family business, they cut ties, as everybody, I guess, is trying to put as much distance between themselves and Adam Katsavelos. And then 71-year-old serial rapist nabbed at Paypoint. And this is a story about a police officer, a cop who was just persistent and managed to actually catch a serial rapist who's now 71-year-old. And this man lured his first victim in 2006 on the false premise of, having a job for her. And this is the same modus operandi that he used for several other victims. And the serial rapist, who's 71 years old, was nabbed at a Boxer store. And also threat to axe public protector criminal. Those some of the stories on the front page of today's Sowetan.
Okay. In front of me, I think I've got the next newspaper. That, of course, is The Citizen. And The Citizen taking a big stance on the baby ward of death. Poor hygiene, overcrowding, understaffing is to blame for the outbreak of the superbug that killed 2 babies at a Vosloorus hospital. There was a similar page story of that on the front page of the Sowetan yesterday, focusing in on this superbug that killed babies at a hospital as well. Severe overcrowding, understaffing have led to hygiene crisis, which resulted in the superbug outbreak that killed 2 babies at a hospital in Vosloorus after several infections were reported at the facility. This is according to the DA. Initial media reports indicated that 5 babies had died, but according to the Gauteng Department of Health, in total 7 babies were infected with the antibiotic-resistant Klebsiella. I think it's kind of like a pneumonia bacteria at Tele Mogorane Hospital. So that's the big story that they are following, and I know that was on the Sowetan yesterday. Then, of course, also the EFF gunning for the beach racist, and those of you that have been following it would have seen that the EFF last night went and opened up a case against Katsavelos. The EFF yesterday opening a case against the businessman for his racist comments made while he was on an overseas visit. The EFF, led by Mandisa Mashego alongside Pastor Paseko Mboro, were at the Bramley police station to open a criminal docket against Adam Katsavelos, who he exposed in a video expressing his joy at there being no, not even saying it, insight at an overseas destination he was visiting this week. So that's the EFF. And then, of course, a fun picture on the big picture, the colourful one, jockey Pierce Stradum on the front page at the launch of the G-Bets Gauteng Summer Cup in Johannesburg, the horse race at Turffontein taking place on the 1st of December. Okay.
And then Business Day, and their lead, Bain cripples the litigation unit at SARS. And Bain & Co. is, of course, a consultancy firm. And it says the consultancy's diagnostic report said to be fraught with misleading and inaccurate statements. And 200 million rand is the amount that was paid to Bain. So details what happened there. Also, rate hike unlikely in the sluggish economy. I think that's good news. And at the bottom there, a court to rule on Chamisa poll challenge on Friday. So we do know that finally, after a bit of to and fro, Dali Mpofu and Tembega Ngogaitobi, they were allowed into and given the necessary documentation to go ahead and represent Nelson Chamisa. And the case as it stands, what this article is saying is that the top court in Zimbabwe, the Constitutional Court, they will on Friday give a decision either way, either to uphold or overturn Emerson Mnangagwa's victory. And what seems to be at stake here is the 70,000 votes in the presidential election, which according to the MDC's legal team cannot be accounted for.
Wow. Okay. So that's a big topic. We're also going to be covering it at about 7:10. We're going to be joined by AC Lumumba. He's a political strategist. He'll talk to us about Zimbabwe. Now, getting back to that big story that's happened this morning, you may have noticed, and you heard it in the news bulletin, that US President Donald Trump has asked the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, to look into land and farm seizures, as well as the the killing of farmers in South Africa. Trump posted the information on Twitter last night. Our US correspondent Sherwin Bryce Pease looks into this tweet.
President Donald Trump has just tweeted that he has asked his Secretary of State, Secretary Mike Pompeo, to closely study South Africa's land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers. Quote, the South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. It's a quote that he is using directly from the Tucker Carlson show on conservative cable news channel Fox News. The president, of course, tweeting at the conclusion of this program, so clearly getting his information from Fox News. It was a 6-minute segment that also erroneously claimed that President Cyril Ramaphosa had begun seizing land from the country's own citizens without compensating them for it because they are the wrong skin color. The host Tucker Carlson also asked the American elite why they weren't paying enough attention to the situation in South Africa at all. He then quoted a statement from the State Department arguing that South Africa was, in fact, a strong democracy grappling in an open and transparent manner with the difficult issue of land reform, citing the South African government's own assurances that the process would unfold within the rule of law. The program then continued to claim that President Ramaphosa had already changed South Africa's constitution to effect the new land policy to make it possible to steal land from people because they are the wrong skin color. It then proceeded to have an interview with a gentleman called Marion Tupy, whom they introduced as a South African who has studied the issue very closely in South Africa, apparently. Marion Tupy is from the conservative Cato Institute in Washington, who then continued to draw comparisons to the land seizures in Zimbabwe, arguing that, quote, in a free and civilized society, we don't take people's stuff, close quote. So big news out of the United States this morning in South Africa is that the president has tweeted that he has instructed his Secretary of State to take a closer look at South Africa's land and land expropriation and what they call farm seizures in the United States. And you can certainly expect more on this in the hours ahead. President Donald Trump has just tweeted.
Yeah, certainly we'll be getting a lot more in the hours ahead. We'll also see if there is a reaction from the South African government towards that and other reactions. I mean, you were bringing up a story of when AfriForum had gone over and tried to get a meeting, and they did have a meeting, not necessarily with Trump, but with his security advisor.
They did. It was John Robert Bolton, National Security Advisor to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They met with him. And so, as I said, I'm not sure how much of that has fed to this. But, of course, that is the story right now. But interesting what he says there, you know, in a free and, what was it? What society? Civilized. Free and civilized society, we don't take people's things. Well, you're right. And in a free and civilized society, we also don't take people's children away from them, Donald Trump.
I suppose so. Yeah, nicely put. All right, we'll move away from Trump for a second and we'll focus on local issues, because after the break, we're going to be joined by our Education Minister, Naledi Pandor. We're going to be talking about NSFAS and all issues surrounding that. There's a lot to talk about, so do stay tuned. We're also going to add your questions that you've been getting to us at Morning Live SABC. Stay tuned. See you after the